In today's video, we're gonna do a little exercise that I hope is gonna help you to move from creating something that is completely thought out and planned into a more abstract, loose. We're gonna go through some different stages doing this. So my plan is to begin with something that looks more realistic, and we'll end with something that is very abstract. And we're gonna just take, this is my mixed media pad, I'm gonna take this little chalk box and trace it and make 4 squares here on my paper. And then we're gonna take those squares, if I can find a pencil, we're gonna take those squares and turn them into little paintings. I'm in the process of moving into a new room, or actually I'm moving back into my old studio, and I don't have all of my supplies on hand. So let's see, I'm gonna use a colored pencil. And I'm just gonna make a little frame here. If you don't have a little box like this, you can just use whatever you have. You can make these circles or rectangles. This is just for practice, so don't stress over this part. And you can see these are not perfectly spaced or anything like that. Just getting some basic shapes to work with. Okay, so in this first one, we're gonna paint just a pretty little sunflower. Got some burnt umber. We're gonna use some manganese blue if I can get it out of here. Yeah. There we go. Some yellow ochre. Or you can use raw sienna. They're very similar in color. And some cadmium yellow. All right, so we're gonna use these same colors on all 4 paintings. We're going to use the basic idea for all 4 paintings, but we're going to go from pretty realistic to very abstract. Okay, so in this first one, let's start with just getting an idea of a sunflower. And I'm using a filbert brush that's kind of small. Okay, so we're gonna have the center of our flower here. Let's go ahead and pick up some of this yellow ochre. And I've still got some burnt umber on my brush, which I don't mind. Okay, I'm gonna wash my brush. Let's get out a little bit of white. I'm gonna mix some of this manganese blue with some white. And we'll put in a little bit of some background. And when I say realistic, I'm talking as realistic as I normally would paint. So I'm more of an impressionistic painter. I don't do realism. I just give you the idea of something. but abstract work is sometimes tough for me to do. So this exercise I've found helps me to let go a little bit more. You know what? We need some green, so let's get some sap green. Put it out here too. All right, so I washed my brush again. I'm gonna get some sap green and a little bit of white. And let's just put in maybe a leaf here. Maybe one over here. And let's do a stem. Okay. I feel like it needs something up here, so I'm gonna put a little bit, just a little hint of some green right there. And I'm not really looking at anything as a reference. I'm just kind of playing around with this in my head and then putting it down on paper. So sometimes that's the best way for me to work. Sometimes I do look at a reference, but most of the time I don't. Okay, so this is yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, and a little bit of white. Okay, so we're just gonna put that over some of these petals, or all of these petals. Okay, wash my brush again, and we're gonna pick up mostly white. It's gonna have a little bit of yellow tint. Okay, and let's go into that center of our flower with some burnt umber and yellow ochre. We're gonna tap around the edge. Some more yellow ochre. Make a little circular, I can't talk today, little circular area in the middle. Take a little bit of white right there for the center part, and I'm gonna lighten up some of our leaves. Oh, I really can't talk. Let's give some little hints of definition. So we're putting in some darker areas and some lighter areas, and that helps with our value. Makes it look a little more believable. And let's just put a little bit of green in that center right there too. Okay. So we're gonna call this one our impressionistic / realistic sunflower. So now let's move to do another one. And what we're gonna do is we're going to stop our minds from trying to put in details. Stop our hands from trying to put in details. And we're gonna mostly work with just the colors and basic shapes. So one thing that I like to do is I look at something, whether it is a realistic thing I'm looking at in front of me, or a picture or painting, and squint my eyes. So I'm gonna squint and look at this, and I can see where the lights and the darks are. And I'm gonna try to use that picture that I just put in my head to do another painting over here, somewhat similar but looser. So we're gonna use less strokes, okay? Put it down and you stop. I'm gonna wash my brush. I'm gonna grab my yellow ochre and try to make as few as few swipes as possible. This is it's harder than it seems. Okay, then we've got our blue background. As few swipes as possible. Okay. Then we're going to do our lighter yellow petals. Still trying to do as few swipes of your brush as possible. All right, and we're going to do some of our green. Okay, I'm going to have a sip of tea. My voice is still not 100% after having the yucky virus. Also, taking a break, drinking that tea, made me stop and look at this. And you guys, this is not bad. It's actually good. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to put a little bit of some yellow ochre in the center here, tad of white. I don't want to overdo that. And now let's grab some of this white and make our lighter areas on our petals. And I'm going to stop there. Okay, I'm going to bring it down a little bit lower and let you see. See, this one has more detail. This one has a lot less detail. But this one looks a little more interesting to me. All right, so let's keep going. I'm going to do another one here. And this time, we're going to use a little bit bigger brush. So if you want to get really loose and really abstract, change the size of your brush. That can make a huge difference. Okay, let's go into our brown. Same thing we were doing before. Try to use as few swipes of your brush as possible. All right, I may have to get out some more paint. Let's get a little more yellow ochre out. When you limit the number of strokes that you use, it's also going to change the shape of some of your objects. So, for example, this is not round, completely round here in the center, but that's going to be okay. It's going to change a lot of what you can control and what you can't. And that's part of what makes it a really good thing. Right, we're gonna limit our number of strokes with our background. Gotta get a little more white paint out. And since we're using this bigger brush, it makes it a little bit easier to use less strokes because it covers, the bigger brush covers more area. Okay. Sorry about my throat, y'all. Okay, so next, let's grab some of this lighter yellow. And I'm catching myself thinking too much. I gotta just get this put down fast. Okay. Wash my brush again, grab some green. Really loosely put down the shapes. Okay. There's a cat that wants to come in, but I'm not gonna allow it. Okay, so now we've got these 3 examples. Pretty realistic, looser, less paint strokes, even looser, even less. Okay, so now we're gonna go for this last one here, and I'm gonna try really hard not to overthink it and make something very abstract. So I'm gonna continue to use the same colors, but I'm not going to think about shapes, and I'm just gonna allow my brush to do whatever it wants to do. I don't even really have to make it look like a flower if I don't want to. And already you can see that it has changed direction. So it's not, the petals are not going in the same direction that they were in our previous paintings, which is fine. Getting out some blue here. I'm going to try to use fewer swipes, which is hard. Okay. And I have to put in a little bit of green. I don't even have to put it in the same place as I've got the green in the other examples. This one may even look a little more abstract than this one now that I'm doing this. I think I'm going to put in some more bright yellow. And I'm going to call that one done. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. This one was our most realistic. We took our time, we put in some details, we used a smaller brush. Then we moved to this one where we tried really hard not to think as much and put in the same shapes, the same colors, the same idea, but less or fewer brush strokes. Then we did the same general idea here with the same placement of our leaves and things like that, but we chose to use even fewer brush strokes and a larger brush. And then this one here, this one was our last example. And I just completely let myself go. I did put in a center with, you know, the petals that are coming out around it, but at the same time, this flower is turned this way, where this one is not so much. It's a little more flat. This one's a little more flat, the same as this one. And I think these came out amazingly well. And this is not the way, this right here is not the way that I would normally paint if I were not trying to challenge myself. But I love it. It looks very interesting. So I hope that this exercise is going to help you to just see that less can be more sometimes. And the fewer strokes that you use, the bigger brush that you use, the looser you're going to be able to get. And you can stop at any of these and be happy with your sunflowers. There is no right and wrong when it comes to art. You can choose to paint this way or this way, this way or this way, and it's all going to be beautiful. And you need to choose the way that makes you the most excited. So I can't wait to see what you make.